It's been quite a year in Ottawa Tech. 2018 had some big venture capital raises, some big acquisitions, and we want to make sure that you got all the stories that you need to know going into 2019. That's this week on Techopia Live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Techopia Live. I'm your host, Craig Lord, here again for our final episode of Techopia Live of 2018. And so we thought we'd take the chance, gather a big panel of our editorial experts and our coveted guests to talk about the highlights from the year in tech and give you our predictions, the trends, and the stories, the companies that we're following heading into 2019. I'll quickly introduce the team before we go through our highlights. Over on the far end there is Dave Sali, the editor of our news magazine over at OBJ. We've got Rosa Saba next to him, our reporter. The head of content at OBJ, Peter Kovessy, joining to her right, and of course Susan Richards from one of our great Techopia champions, Numbercrunch, and also right at home here in the accelerator space at Invest Ottawa. You're the co-chair of the board here. So Susan, why don't we start with you? What was your big highlight from 2018, the year in tech?
Well, I'm really excited about 2018. It has been a tremendous year, but I think noteworthy for the city was Ascent Compliance's successful raise of $130 million. That's pretty notable. It's one of 5 companies in Canada that's done that this year, and they're coming off of, this is the 3rd year in a row of a large raise for them. 4 years ago, they were 25 employees. Now they're over 400. They're a global company. I think that is perhaps a great champion for the city and what stands out to me as far as highlights.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's pass it on to Peter. Thanks, Susan.
For me, the biggest story of the year was the rise of urban tech. We've known that, of course, we've all seen Shopify having that big anchor presence in the downtown core. To me, 2018 was the year when we start to talk about the other companies that are really setting up shop and expanding in the downtown core. Clipfolio's office in World Exchange Plaza got a lot of attention. SurveyMonkey made a splash with the opening of its Canadian headquarters in downtown Ottawa, and Telesat, which was one of the ones that I found really, really interesting. Announcing plans to move from the East End to downtown. And it speaks to a larger trend that with Telesat talking about the need to attract a new generation of workers, a younger generation of workers, and they were going to do that through downtown urban presence. And one of the things that I find so exciting about that is the potential to really have a broader impact on the downtown core. If you have all these companies that are employing younger, really skilled, talented individuals, the potential just to have those more people living downtown has the opportunity to really, I think, reshape the city.
Mm-hmm. You would never know that you host a real estate show, Peter.
For me, it's going to be mergers and acquisitions. This kind of stood out to me actually because I just remembered that Calian alone made 7 acquisitions in 2018, which is staggering. Interestingly enough, the Business Development Bank of Canada actually reported at the beginning of 2018 that they thought it was going to be a year of mergers and acquisitions. They kind of saw that coming, and they were right. We had more than 13 acquisitions by local tech firms here in Ottawa. Obviously, Calian had 7, Martello had 2. We had at least 10, I think, Ottawa tech companies that were acquired, including, of course, Mitel and Neptech. And we had a couple of mergers as well. So there's a lot of companies here in Ottawa, tech firms that are growing by acquisitions, mergers, and a lot of them by U.S. companies as well.
Yeah, that Mitel acquisition obviously wanted to highlight the end of a 45-year run as an independent Ottawa company. Obviously not the end of Mitel, they're still moving forward, just a little bit of a different ownership structure and path going forward for Mitel. So that's one of the companies that I'd really like to follow going forward. What changes at Mitel now that they're acquired by Searchlight Capital in that $2 billion deal? So, let's hear from Dave. What are you seeing?
All right. Well, and I'm actually going to pick up on Susan's theme there. Ascent Compliance was kind of the, I guess you would say, the headline-grabbing story of a big year in venture capital in Ottawa. I mean, for years when we were, people would ask the question, where is all the VC capital gone? I mean, there were $30, $40 million years. Well, Ascent had $130 million on its own You.i are in the 30 million range. We're now well over $200 million this year in the total venture capital haul in Ottawa. That's phenomenal. I mean, You.i, another great example of a local company that's just really defining its space, the user experience, a TV sort of streaming kind of space. Big partners there, the NBA. I mean, we're talking major multinational brands here, world brands. Another interesting company that I've covered a lot this year, Renovus, which got $20 million from the feds from its strategic innovation fund. Now, they're planning to grow to 500 plus employees in the next decade, and they with using cutting edge fiber optics technology to literally cut the amount of energy data centers need to transmit data by up to 90%. I mean, this is going to be a game changer for that industry. We had other Agrosoma Biosciences got 12 million, a Gatineau company that makes biofuel based from a mustard seed-like substance that cuts greenhouse gas emissions by up to 80% in jet fuel flight. I mean, it's that again in an industry that's looking to really cut back its carbon footprint. They are a world leader. So these are just some of the companies that have landed big venture capital money this year, and it's a really encouraging story, I think, for the Ottawa tech scene.
Yeah. And Dave, I'll get you to hold on to the mic there for a second. We'll go into our highlights for a sec, or our trends that we're looking into for 2019 in just a second. Before we move on, one of the trends I want to mention that I saw a lot of this year is an interesting one, and that was CEOs, founders stepping aside from successful companies who were deciding that they are actually not the ones. They were the ones that started the company, but not the ones to take it to the next level. I'm talking about Alan Vile at Clipfolio, Craig Fitzpatrick at PageCloud, people like Ali Alizadeh at Geotech, who is bringing in now Paul Laux from Halogen Software, a fantastic run, made that company into one of Ottawa's heavy hitters, and now Paul Laux is stepping in to lead Geotech. I think this is a fantastic trend. Susan, you're part of this as well. Actually, you just sold Givopoly, one of your babies, because you had decided that it was time for someone else to take the reins. I think it's a fantastically mature decision and reflects on the maturing Ottawa tech scene that these CEOs are saying, let's bring in a seasoned veteran to lead this company to become a global player. And it's, I think, an interesting, maybe something that you would miss, but something to highlight as, there are people that really are understanding how to build the next big thing here in Ottawa, and taking the steps, the selfless sometimes steps and really humble steps to say, I'm not the one, let's see someone else take it for now. But yeah, I'll let Dave, you pick it up. What are you looking forward to in 2019? What are you following going forward?
Well, Craig, we haven't yet really touched on another rapidly evolving field that I think Ottawa is going to become a leader in, AI, and in particular the smart cities side of it. I think we have a lot of potential here in the capital to really cash in on that. We've got companies here that landed venture capital, Mindbridge, Raven, Telemetry, but we've also got right here, it's appropriate that we're in this building because we've got a couple of companies here, SMATS Traffic Solutions for one, Contextair for another, that are really focusing on working with cities, urban governments to use artificial intelligence, data analytics to track things like traffic flows, make better use of city infrastructure, make it safer, make it smarter, make it more efficient. So that's definitely, I think, a big trend to look out for in the year ahead.
And to Rosa, what are you looking for?
So somewhat related, I'm going to be looking at cybersecurity and privacy. Obviously, right now, the Huawei saga is going to continue into 2019, and we're all sort of, at least I am, kind of waiting with bated breath to see what the federal government is going to do, about that, and that could have a really big effect on a lot of Ottawa companies. It could have a big effect on some of our post-secondary institutions. In general, I think cybersecurity is going to be a growing issue. Obviously, Peter mentioned the talent gap. The talent gap is definitely felt in cybersecurity. It's such a changing industry, and it's affected by emerging technologies like AI, as you mentioned. And as we look at other emerging technologies like autonomous vehicles, for example, cybersecurity is going to be absolutely top of mind. So, for example, Carleton and BlackBerry are researching sort of some of the biggest cybersecurity threats for AV technology. It's going to be, I think, we're going to be hearing the words cybersecurity when we look at all fields of tech, especially those emerging technologies, and not just the big companies, not just not just 5G, but sort of that AI and the other kind of geeky stuff that's going to become part of the smart cities that Dave is talking about.
For sure. And into Peter, what are you looking forward to?
So the one that I'm going to be really looking for in 2019 is a discussion around talent. When I talk to business owners and executives, and I've often heard that they say it's difficult finding talent. Obviously, talent is essential for the tech sector. It's the lifeblood. So in 2019, how does that tone change? Are people going to start saying that it's difficult to impossible, which would be a negative one? Or I'm also going to be watching, are the efforts underway by the likes of Invest Ottawa, Ottawa Tourism, the local BIAs to try to attract more talent to the capital, often in partnership with the post-secondary institutions? Is that going to start to pay dividends? And are we going to start seeing a bit of an easing of that talent crunch?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely something that I've heard from people I've been interviewing lately. Dave mentioned MindBridge AI. I was just talking to Ellie Fathi last week, the CEO there, and he said that was their biggest challenge in 2018 was finding that talent. So it'll be interesting following companies like MindBridge who have all this potential. Can they find the talent here in Ottawa to execute on that? So, excellent thing to highlight. And Susan, what are you looking forward to in this year?
Well, all of the above for sure. I would say a few things. So smart city, smart health is another big category for Ottawa. And we've got a company here, Grocer, I think is one to watch in 2019. So they do retrofit shipping containers to do hydroponic farms for communities that have extreme weather conditions. So way up north, it could be minus 50, and their systems can produce produce for those communities. They're profitable for the communities. They can be built upon each other to like Legos, essentially. And there's a lot of good stuff going on there. We're going to be seeing something in January, an event in January that features the Grocer, and that's GROWCER, in case anybody wants to check them out. But I think another factor in 2019 is diversity and inclusion. And I think that's going to also help with this talent issue that we have, both from a gender, from a race, from an age perspective. Tech has been notoriously focused on a certain demographic that we're working to expand and get contributions from a whole host of contributors that can address their issues of talent and growth for the next year. I'm feeling very bold.
Awesome. Yeah. Boldness is, I think, to be encouraged in Ottawa tech, and obviously the gender gap is existed for years, and I would love to see what efforts are being made and what impact is being made in filling in that gap and in closing the gap in gender and diversity in Ottawa tech and seeing more representation there. I think for me going forward, and this is a bit of a tease as to what's coming out in the OBJ News magazine in January, but it's we're going to put out our annual tech firms to watch list, and there's a theme around all these companies is that we're looking at hardware companies primarily. There's like Dave mentioned, Renovis, companies that are getting back into that physical space that Ottawa became known for in telecom with companies like Nortel. But what are they doing? What's the new wave? It's IoT companies, Internet of Things companies like Geotech, like I mentioned earlier, companies like Corsa Securities and cybersecurity field that Rosa was mentioning there. So check out the OBJ News magazine for some profiles and our picks for what the hardware companies you should be looking for in 2019 are. And I think just to wrap up kind of our discussion here, a name that we didn't hear very much, Peter mentioned them briefly, was Shopify. We are not just talking about Shopify when we're talking about our highlights and our companies to watch in 2019. I think that is what speaks to what's going on in Ottawa right now. Is we have this company that is continuing to grow, to expand, to do well in the commerce space. But it's not just Shopify anymore. We're not just talking about software and these kinds of companies. We are diversifying and seeing strength in a number of fields that we're mentioning: artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, GovTech, smart health, and smart cities. So the future is exciting because there are many places that we can look, not just to the shining company on Elgin and Laurier there. So I want to thank everyone very much for joining us again. Dave, Rosa, and Peter from OBJ, and Susan from our champion NumberCrunch, and you're also the co-chair here at Invest Ottawa. If people want to learn more about NumberCrunch's SaaS services, where should they find you?
numbercrunch.ca, connect on LinkedIn, where have you. I'm happy to connect with anybody.
Awesome. Thanks very much, Susan. I'll take a quick second to thank some of our other Techopia champions without whom this show would not be possible. I'll start with Perley-Robertson Hill McDougall, a leader in business and tech law. There's TD Bank, offering specialized services for tech firms. There's Stratford Managers, offering specialized services to help you scale up your tech venture. And the University of Ottawa Faculty of Engineering, creating the next generation of technical talent, that resource that we heard so much about today. Obviously, Techopia is not just a fantastic show. You can also find us daily articles on techopia.ca, obj.ca/Techopia. You can follow us on social at Techopia OTT on Twitter and on Facebook. If you're watching us on YouTube, please leave us a like and a comment. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified of all our new videos in the new year. We're going to be making a whole bunch of new content for you in the new year, so please stay with us as we follow the new developments in Ottawa Tech in 2019. I'm looking forward to it and hope we'll see you following us along. Thanks.